Hello, welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for May 19th, 29th, God's glasses on, 29th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Cindy King is present.
Sulicio present, so call the meeting to order.
Madam
Wayne?
Chair, Wayne is on standby for a call, and I no longer need to do the other matter downstairs.
So we can get going? Okay.
We'll give him a call.
So Wayne is going to be calling in, participating remotely.
Hello.
Hello, Selectman Miller, this is Jim Kreidler. Can you hear me?
Yep, everything's fine.
Wonderful. Sue, Cindy, can you hear Wayne?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear them?
Yep.
Wonderful. Pursuant to the policy of the board for remote participation, just wanted to make certain that each party can hear the other, and while we can't get any visual clues from you, if you do want to chime in at some point, you're going to need to, instead of use something in body language, just make yourself known verbally, okay?
Yep, that's good.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
So we'll call the meeting to order, and could we get the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the meeting is being tape recorded. It's not live, but it will be shown after. Chairman's additions or deletions, we have none. And it's 2, board work session. Votes may be taken. 2.1, board goals and objectives setting meeting. And then from that, Mr. Kreidler can get some goals and objectives,
Amen.
okay? Direction is always good, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Madam Chair, I did include a copy of a document that I've used in the past.
Yep.
It shows as this spreadsheet, and Wayne, I apologize that you don't have the ability to see it unless you want to FaceTime in. But it's basically a spreadsheet that has the first column on the left, the member whose specific goal and objective it was that brought it to the table. The deliverables that fall under each respective goal. So it could be,
So that's the objective,
solve
basically.
world hunger as the goal, and increase food distribution as the deliverable. Then-
This says town administrator goals and objectives, so we would just change this, or is this?
This would be what would
this
fall out for me.
For you,
Yeah, this
okay.
is something I've used in the past, so I can have a roadmap going forward. The completion timeline, I've found in the past to be of some use, just so people have a kind of a sense of what the timing on the different issues is going to be. Some may be a year-long goals, some others might just be a month or so. So, not rocket science, but just kind of a snapshot way to get a picture of what the overall goals, and then the deliverables that fall out, the objectives that fall out of it.
Okay. And we have something from before, when we got together a long time ago, and some of the things got done, some of them things haven't, but Cindy, do you have any thoughts on, if you were going to pick 3 or 4 major things that you're concerned with for the next year or so, what would it be?
Well, I'd like to hear what you have before I chime in.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I'm going to let Wayne go first then.
Okay. My big one is I'd like to see the road survey or analysis that was done 2 years ago, was it?
Yep.
If I remember that correctly?
Yep.
Either updated, resurrected, and added as an action item to reevaluate and develop a plan to attack.
So to revise it or update it, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, obviously things have changed in the last 2 years since we did the original evaluation. So can we go back and say, okay, is this still valid and realistic, or is there ones that have, obviously they've done a couple of road, I know they did South Row 2 weeks ago, so that's obviously off the table. So, update the ones that they fixed, and if any of them got worse or need more attention first, what those are, costs, and then we can start tackling how to pay for them.
Do you have any others?
Well, we talked last week about the policy, personnel policy. I'd like that added to it.
So Wayne, would that be updating it and also defining to whom it applies these days?
Yes. Get it to the 2000s.
Yeah.
If this makes sense, I think just to have a list of the things that are, that kind of are rising to the top, and then afterwards kind of talk about, well, what does that mean?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first, just getting the list. Cindy, do you want to add any?
Yeah, well, just to follow up with the ones that Wayne had, particularly the road survey, I think we've talked about that a few meetings ago, or maybe town meeting, somewhere in there. And I think that I want to not just, like I had said before, at the previous meeting that we talked about, not just do the survey and put it in a file cabinet, actually come up with a plan. What is the plan? Rather than just to say, okay, we did the road survey and this is what got done. And then let's do the road survey again, which is where we are right now, which I'm not complaining about it completely, but to start working on how are we going to fund it? What are the needs of the community? Because regardless of whether the survey is just continuous process of people complaining and legitimately that there's problems with the roads, and then we say that we don't have the money, and then we just keep going. So
you're looking
I
at...
want to see a plan.
At it. All right, so a financial plan.
Well, a plan plus a management plan to get it done, whether it be financial and who's going to do it as well.
Yeah.
A total plan, not just. I mean, the dollars is probably the biggest mover on that, but I think that's as important as spending the money on their survey.
Anything else rising to the top?
So we talked about last meeting the hiring of the positions, making sure that we get those accomplished.
The vacant positions.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And IT, I understand we did get a partial grant, some of the money, less than half of what we asked for, but anything is better than nothing. But I'd like to see a plan for what to do with the big chunk of money we got, and then as well as have a plan for that as well, to see where we're at, what are our needs, and which in IT it does have some continual change to it.
On that point, Madam Chair, to Cindy's point, Bassam is actually working right now to determine the grant amount that we've been afforded is $49,000, so it's 25% of what the ask was. He's working on the scope that was submitted, and we'll try to call out what the most critical issues are and what can be purchased with that money, and most likely what additional funding will be necessary. We have to put that plan together as well.
Yeah, and we could talk through that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm also like to see, like we were just chatting before the meeting, about continuing to move forward with whatever our public access and studio plan is. I think, we've had all kinds of, well, let's look at this and let's look at that, but let's really look at this and look at that and come up with, even if we can't do any of the things on a plan, let's come up with alternatives as to what would be required to make it happen. Like we've chit-chatted back and forth about putting a studio in the Hart Library. And then sometimes, there's roadblocks that have come, well, maybe we can, maybe, and the money is often the reasons. But if we can actually put some kind of report down that has the alternative to, if we want to have a public access, or if we want to have a studio, where can it be? What will it take to put it there? And versus plan A, B, C, or none at all. Even if it's, should I use the word regional? But something like that. And one other thing, I don't have like a particular plan in mind for this, but I think hopefully everybody in town knows we've just had a number of opioid deaths, and as well as additional overdoses that did not result in death in Townsend, and I suspect our statistics for this year are going to exceed any previous year before it. And as I think of some of the other personal, not personnel issues within the town, things that fall under human services, including the Veterans Office, but we have a number, in the growing elderly population, we have a number of human service departments that are very busy.
Or social services.
Well, we have our budget, our thing is human services, the departments that fall under that on our budget, just using that as a plan that I don't, either a cat or a child.
No, it's a child. Somebody's not happy.
No. So anyway, if something to consider or to look at, I think we're small, but some towns have done this or are doing this, as having a human services director that focuses on the human services departments, not have them just piecemeal trying to function from the town administrators, see all the issues that come up. But there's things that, some of them, we've talked about grants sometimes, grants that fall under human services, and a town substance abuse program or problem. We don't have anybody taking care of it other than police, but there's a lot more to it than police. But what can we do? There's more that we can do as a town. But that's an example, and making sure that we are providing the best services in the veterans, and then making sure from a step above our Council on Aging, or a step above Karen's position, that looks at a number of things that we have a significant aging population. We're in the next 25 years, we're going to, at the rate we're going, close to 50% of the town is going to be elderly. But it's more than, oh, well, that's Karen. Well, they'll just say, we'll just give more service. It's not elder services that is the issue when we have a population that's nearly 50% elderly. As I've said, it's every single aspect, every corner of this town has to be prepared to not necessarily provide services, but make sure the town is accessible, whether it be commercial, personal, government, what have you, the sidewalks. We have to be an elder town. We have to, every corner of the town has to be here with providing accessibility and or services for that aging population. It's not Karen's job to make sure the sidewalks are there, or that we have the right traffic lights or crosswalks, or I'm using those as limited examples, but there's so many different things. And and the Disabilities Commission has not come up. No one's well, we've had one or two volunteers for that they haven't had a meeting yet, and it's been over a year that was initiated. But those things would fall under human services. So I think something to look at. I know we certainly haven't planned for that or funded it, but I think that as far as a goal somewhere, I think that is something that I think would be very helpful. I think
Can
that's
I add one piece to that?
What?
Yep, you add one piece to that.
Yes.
The one thought I've had, and this kind of goes across the board for a lot of the things we're asking for, because everything involves money. But what about looking at least a part-time grant writer or contracting with a grant writer to help us with some of this stuff, because obviously there's money out there. I don't know, Jim knows where to look for it in some cases, but I mean, that's not a full-time job. But is there a way we can attach something like that to any of these projects?
So as I'm listening to this, I'm hearing problems, and I'm hearing some solutions or potential solutions. So, I mean, it's kind of like goals are, what are we trying to do? And then the objective is, how do we do it? How do we start attacking that? And I think the objectives have to be culled out a little bit too. But I had a couple of thoughts. One of the biggest concerns that I have, besides roads, and what kind of financial plan do we have for those? Because it's nice to say we want to do it, but it's not going to do any good if we don't figure out how we're going to pay for it. Okay? Who does it and all of that's going to fall right out nicely as long as we figure out the money. So I think the money is the biggest part of that. So I'd ditto on both of you for that. The other thing is the capital assets. I think we did a really good job by starting the capital planning, but I think we need a more robust view of what all of our assets, including all of the buildings and whatnot. What does it cost to maintain them on a yearly basis? So going beyond just the requests for, I need a new heater, or I need a new furnace or something like that, and going beyond and saying, all right, given the life of the building or the asset itself, what is the lifetime value? How much does it depreciate over time? Does it depreciate over time? So that we have a feel for how much are we actually holding. I know that the accountant probably has all of that information, but I think that perhaps we need to work together to really look at that. And we haven't talked yet about your finance team, and I'd be willing to help out on that if it came to that. But
If I could quickly, what community, Cindy, did you had once shared with me a community that has each truck, each
Northborough.
Building photographed, and
Northborough.
Was it Northborough? Okay. So that there may even be an example of a template out there to define each asset and what its
if I remember
expectancy
correctly,
is.
Arlington Town Manager did
Adam Chapdelaine.
did a presentation on something similar too.
Yeah, Arlington does, some of the...
And you're right, is it
some of the
Northborough?
FinCom people from Arlington have created their own business, I think a nonprofit, that they created several years ago, which they'll sell and manage, or sell the service as well, one of those like open checkbook type programs that I know Jim's looked at, some of those in the past. I don't know.
Yeah, not the capital
Where-
asset as much as just the open checkbook
right,
stuff,
but
yeah.
it's at the FinCom, annual FinCom meetings, that there's usually, sometimes he's at the Selectmen's Association, usually it's the FinCom, that it's, what's his name from Northborough? Kadir. He's the one that usually gives that, and he's from, I know sometimes it's easy to confuse Northborough and Arlington because they're both very, they're usually presenting at the FinCom
Yeah.
meetings.
No, I've heard of both of them.
He's the big on the plans and the budget presentations, and I think he probably a lecturer or a presenter for the organizations nationally that provide the awards, because he gets the award, and I think that he's the standard bearer for all those presentations and how to present it to the public. I mean, their budget book is volumes. It's huge. It's like 2 or 3-inch binders is what is presented for the budget. We cannot, they do not print it for every townsperson. It's, you get it online or you don't get it. It's, if you go to the website for Northborough, there's probably 25 PDF files. Each each area of the budget has a chapter.
And Arlington is a town, it's town meeting members
Yeah, representative.
representative.
Oh, are they represented?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm talking
But-
Northborough, yeah.
yeah.
I'm not- But Arlington's, I'll call them famous for the open checkbook type, or the open budget where you can go online. And there's a number of, they're not the only ones selling that anymore. There's a number of companies that are providing that. I think Groton, it's either Groton or Pepperell, has, if you go to their website, you can see up to date where the budget is in a visual checkbook type. Boston does it too, where if a town member wants to, or a town resident wants to go on and see, how's my money being spent, you can see exactly what we just signed.
Yeah, we're doing that, but it's not very user-friendly to post the year-to-date expenditure sheets.
You get, it's
Well,
up to the
I mean-
minute, and it has the pie charts and graphs. and
If
you
I
can see-
if I can just kind of comment on that a little bit, that's frustrating for me because I'm used to seeing things that are easily downloadable into Excel or ASCII format that you can bring into Excel or you can bring into a presentation software, so that it all integrates together. It's similar to what, is it BU that helped with the, who's the one that did all of your budget presentation stuff?
Oh, the Collins Center.
The Collins
At
Center,
Boston.
UMass, okay. I don't know why I kept thinking it was BU.
Well, the programming
those-
is
but those-
proprietary, you have to pay for it.
Right, but that kind of capability, okay? It's nothing more than a relational database, and that it has the stuff that
Yeah, I don't know what
uses it,
Vadar's
but-
capability is. I know, I've been in
Yeah.
communities where we have Munis,
So
and you would
I
think
have a
it's easily
question
exportable.
about
but it's-
that.
It's not. It's never been in my
I
experience very
know.
easy.
And I think I had a conversation with Barbara, I think, about that at one point. And she thought perhaps we didn't have all of the modules.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So that's just another little teaser thing to look into.
Mhm.
But as I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm thinking a lot of the communities that we're talking about, Arlington for sure, it's not just the town manager. I mean, he's got a staff of people that can work on these kinds of things. Any big community does. Carolyn and I were talking about that earlier, too. The difficulty I think that we have is that we're either a small staff trying to do it, or we're volunteers trying to do it. And how do we utilize what's out there and not try to recreate the wheel and not get frustrated because we can't do it, and I guess that especially would look to you to be able to bring those kinds of things here, those kinds of solutions, so that we don't have to recreate it, we don't have to hire 3 people to do it. It's out there, and sharing it might help. And then another thing that I have is a campaign to get volunteers for the town. I know you talk about it a
Good luck.
lot, Cindy.
I've been talking about it for 2 years. I have
I
a
know.
number of committees, and they're all empty.
I know, but
And the election process looks just as dire.
So posters, red, white, and blue, but instead of Uncle Sam, it'll be
Volunteer for
Auntie Sue
Townsend?
needs you.
no, Mama Sue.
Put your finger
Tom,
up.
please volunteer for anything.
But,
I'll do the artwork.
yeah, I don't think that's going to cut it, though.
It would get attention.
Yeah, I know, but how do we do that? I think that some of it is people are very busy, number one, okay? But I think we don't have a lot of support for them either, you know? People who work in this building or, you know, work for the town are familiar with who does what and how does it get done, and open meeting law and public records law and where you find this information and that information. And there's a wealth of information in the people that work for the town, but not necessarily for the public. So I think people are hesitant to volunteer sometimes because they don't know what it really entails. So maybe it's just, go ahead, Wayne.
Just to build on that too, I think like an informational night, or a seminar or something like that to get, you know, what does the Swings Committee do? What does conservation do? Because
Wayne, don't give him any ideas.
I was gonna
No, I'm
say, Wayne,
teasing.
on that point, in another community where I've been, we've actually held biannual, is that twice a year? Every other year, whatever one every other year is, volunteer fair in the main hall, where each board committee sets up their table with some of their information, and you know, people can come through and learn a little bit about it, and it almost becomes a little competitive too between boards and committees, trying to lure, you know, unsuspecting volunteers into their web. It becomes kind of a fun event, you know, put some
no,
refreshments in.
that's a great idea.
Yeah. And I had thought something similar, I've never spoken about it, but I think it would be kind of neat to have, and along with that would fit kind of nicely, like a townwide open house, where but I hadn't thought about it, the volunteer thing, but but a townwide open house so that all the departments, not just the ones looking for volunteers, have an opportunity to present. I mean, we have Touch a Truck Day, we have different days sometimes for different parts of the town, but not a total open house where people can go and check out everything. That would be good I like that idea with the volunteer.
So I think some of the
Fair.
stuff that we've come up with so far have been, I gotta put my glasses on so I can see what else. That one, the only other one, regionalization opportunities. You know, a chance to think outside of the box. The one thing that comes to mind is the discussion that's come lately, heard lots of it at the building committee for the high school, and I think, you know, we hear it here too, and that is the need for fields and facilities for the three communities that we are most familiar with that make up North Middlesex, and is there an opportunity to do something there? I mean, alone, I just don't see us doing it as much, but together,
Right.
there may be an opportunity to do a non-school kind of collaboration. I would even think about it in terms of IT. Because, I mean, there was a time I was thinking about it too, even where the schools are concerned. You know, we've got lots of infrastructure across the three communities, in part for the schools. But what about the towns? Is there a way to share some stuff or share some bodies? Are there expertise that can be shared? Those are just a couple of things that I thought about. One real quick thing is I would like to have the board entertain the idea of using our website for posting of meetings as our primary method, which I understand that the state allows if you so vote and designate that. So maybe on a future agenda, we could talk about that one.
You talking just posting the copy or actually having live feed through the website?
Well, you could turn it into that if you want.
That's rather difficult. I've entertained that in the past. It's not much fun.
Okay, well, we don't want it if it's not fun.
No, but I mean, I think that, we're in the digital age. Everybody gets their information off the website for the most part now. I know there are some old school ones out there, but if we, and this might be another goal, is to how to make our IT and our website more accessible and the information at people's fingertips. And it goes along with the finance thing you just talked about, jobs, meeting posts, all of that information sharing.
So, there was something else that I think we've hit on a good number of things. There are some that are big projects, and I think you've actually come out with some of the solutions or potential solutions to some of them, or objectives, if you will. For example, part-time grant writer, that could be a solution to a lot of the things that we have here. Okay, so that might be a potential something to look at for how to get to one of these. The roads funding solution, I agree with Cindy and Wayne totally. We need a way not just to do the plan, but how to pay for it and how to be sustainable in that plan going forward. I really like what I've seen in Lunenburg. My understanding is that one of the things that they did was they designated one of their revenue streams as an ongoing revenue stream dedicated to the roads. So perhaps maybe even inviting their town manager here for a meeting to talk about that, or us going over there.
I think a lot of towns, talking about.
Well, the MMA
revenue.
has talked about it a
Right.
lot, and that's why they've been lobbying for consistent funding for Chapter 90. And when you listen to their argument is the towns need this, they want to do it, but they have to know that it's going to be a consistent source of funding for them. So if the state isn't going to necessarily do it for us. I think there's some commitment there. I think they're hearing it now, because you're hearing the governor talk about it as well, but I don't think we should depend on the state, because we've done that in the past and it doesn't always work out well.
But what a lot of towns now, as the marijuana facilities are coming online, that dedicating a percentage, it's not even all of it, to the roads. Any of the towns that get the retail establishments up and running,
That's another thing.
there won't be a pothole. Air, I don't think we'll ever have a pothole again. If they get a pothole, I think they're going to repave the whole street, because they're opening up, they're going to have 2 or 3 different establishments now.
Who's this?
Air, and they're smaller than us. So
They've got a lot of room too.
well, there's a restaurant, the Mango Restaurant, that right off the Rotary. There's going to be a retail marijuana establishment. They have got the dispensaries up on the back 40 on the way to Groton, but I forgot the name of that street, where the...
Central Street.
Central Street, that's it, is where the dispensary is, but the old Mango Restaurant's going to be a retail establishment. And I think there's another retail, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be in there. So they're going to be having quite a bit of money. And all of our towns around here are yes towns. We have to, I don't know if we know what the planning board's up to as far as getting that bylaw going for special town meeting.
That was another
But we
thing
need
I
to-
have written down is, can we get an update at some point about the status of what's going on with,
That's significant, and that's getting that online and having, I mean, somebody's going to apply for a license. And we can't, like, deny it. But that will be a significant revenue stream for the town to...
They can apply for a license, but they couldn't open unless you negotiated a community host agreement.
Oh, right, but
So, I mean,
we need to get this, procrastinating it isn't going to make it go
We should try to get
away.
an update from planning on where they're at with that,
gotcha.
too.
Yeah, because they're giving out licenses in 2 months, so,
Yeah,
or less than a month.
yeah.
Well, we have a moratorium, so we don't have to allow any, our moratorium goes to 12/31, but on January 1st, somebody can apply for a license, and if we haven't properly zoned it, I don't want to say what would happen, but, huh?
Anywhere commercial use.
Yep, we have a lot of storefronts that are vacant right now.
So, yeah, I mean,
So, they have to get going on it.
yeah, so that is something that we need to
If we want to,
be responsible and make sure that we know exactly what's going on, because there will be tons of questions from the public on that, too.
yeah, we should be having another public hearing pretty
prepared
soon
for
on
it.
it, hopefully.
We need to be prepared for that. If you were to look at all of this, we've got road survey and plan revision. We've got roads and to include a funding solution, okay?
Plan of attack was Wayne's phrase, I like that.
Yeah.
Management plan, my words, I think.
CK, measurement.
There you go.
Personnel policy review, and how to apply that. I'd like to go one step further on that one, because something similar to that was on my list. It's really, when you look at the old personnel policies, there's some that are ancient. My concern, though, has to do with making sure that when we execute a contract, an employment contract, or be it union or personal, that we incorporate some kind of language to... I don't think that any contract can be 100% comprehensive to think about every single situation. For example, let's say we had a social media policy or an internet policy. You want to make sure that everybody, regardless of what their employment status is and what kind of of employment they have with us, adheres to those kinds of things. Okay, so I think we're at the stage now where we need to look at personnel policies in a different way and say, let's say that you come up with 10 basic major things and make sure that you always incorporate those and the need to adhere to those in all of your, be it somebody that's on the matrix or somebody in a union or a personal contract. Because otherwise, people are living by different rules.
Right.
And I don't think that that's the intent. So somehow to consolidate, and I'm sure would need town council's help on that, but it's almost like looking at, somebody files a new bill, And you have to look at, all right, well, what does this touch?
Right. Yep.
Okay, so that kind of an exercise. You might find that fun, you know? That sounds like something that could sink your teeth into, too. Soliciting help from other communities to get started on stuff. Volunteer campaign, I think that's crucial. I really do. I think it's crucial. It might not sound it, but if we continue to do things the way that we've always done them, then we're going to get the same thing. And that's a whole bunch of stuff that's not getting done.
The 600-pound gorilla or elephant, pick your poison, in the room on volunteerism is general demeanor across the board, be they volunteers or they citizens on the other side of the table, and how people treat each other. Because it's hard enough to get people to volunteer if they're going to be treated nicely. It's doubly, triply difficult if they're reading the paper or reading online and seeing some of the back and forth that can go on, not just here. I mean, this is a national issue. You know.
Well, that's why people don't want to run for office,
Right.
too.
Right. So I think there almost needs to be some kind of, it sounds really hokey, you know, Boy Scout, Girl Scoutish, but some sort of pledge, you know, about, you know, across the board. Anybody that comes into the meeting, you know, check the box. You're going to play nice in the sandbox type of thing.
Yeah, and I think you have a point there, because it's difficult to legislate behavior. It needs to come from inside of people, you know. And it needs to be a commitment. It does need to be a commitment. We got a list here. I thought we were going to end up with 3 or 4 things.
I think you have probably 3 or 4 things, and a lot of what we're talking about are the deliverables
Relate to-
that
yeah.
fall out of them. So
Exactly,
I'd be happy in the next couple of days to
Sort it out.
sort this out and present what I think, using each of the things that you've said, where they'd fit into that type of a grid for
Oh.
the next bite at it.
I forgot one. Cable. Not in the sense of the public access, but
System extension.
system extension, and we don't have the board of directors.
For the public access?
Yeah. I mean, that, you gotta start there. I mean, they actually have funding.
They do.
They have funding, but we don't have any they.
Well, the legal entity,
Has to be a nonprofit,
the
right?
committee, the committee hired attorney, is it John Solomon?
Bill Solomon.
Bill Solomon, who does this type of work in Massachusetts, and he's working on the legal documents for the nonprofit. You can't have the board of directors until you've created the structure. So that is underway.
So when
He's
is-
a-
what's the
he's a sole-
timeline?
He's a sole, if not maybe 2 in the office, but I think a sole practitioner. So timing has been when he gets
So
to
we
it.
contracted with him to do that job for us?
Yes, the select board was asked if the cable advisory committee could hire specialized counsel for this, and you voted yes. And they reached out to a couple different firms that deal with it, and this is the gentleman that they picked.
Okay, so can we get an update on what's going on with that, please? Because that seems like a while ago.
It has been.
And if he's done it before for other communities,
I think it's less about the ease within which he can do it and more about the volume of the things that he's taken on to do as a single practitioner. I think he loads his plate pretty full.
well, did we have anything in our agreement that said anything about a timeline?
I don't think so.
Shame on us. Do you know what I mean?
I think there's a limited amount of people that do it, so,
Yeah, he's got a
and
pretty
once
good-
it's done, we're all
pretty good
set.
corner on the market.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they call a monopoly?
It's a game I used to play.
I just hesitate to talk anymore because we could go on and on, but I think that we've definitely hit the ones that probably are all important to us. So,
I'm pleased with the consistency between the three of you. You might have each
Yeah.
had something to say about a different piece of the same issue, but there was general consensus. I
yeah,
think,
what
big things.
what it says to me is that, we're all concerned about the same things, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, because
It's a
maybe...
good thing from an employee,
Yeah.
because then you're not being pulled in three.
Well, the other thing that
Different
that I would suggest is your little spreadsheet, take member off of there, because it's not the member, it's the board, okay? It doesn't have to do with that, because I think all three of us have different thoughts about each subject, but
Yeah.
Cindy, is there anything that we talked about that you would not think was important?
We haven't talked about Jim's, you mean the,
Of the things that we discussed
oh,
about?
no.
Okay. Wayne, how about you? You
No, I
want?
think that's a good start. I just don't want to bite off more than we can chew to start.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you're looking for consistency or, commitment from
Yeah.
the board, I think you have it.
Gotcha.
And if you would be so inclined to go ahead and
I will. I'll
sort it
break
out.
into a sorted draft, email it off to each of you, and then we can agenda it at the next work session meeting to try to get
Okay.
it.
In the next
Great.
work session, did we talk anything about what we're going to be, we said policies, we're going to start getting into policies. I think we need to start from the back of the policy book and work forward, because some of those are ancient. They're ancient.
IBM Selectric typing.
Yes, yes, I know. We probably don't have a lot of it even in Word documents.
The standard civil rights policy and stuff that was done 20 years ago, it's a statement, so it's,
Well, this is what I'm saying, if we start at the end and move forward, I think that a lot of those, we can just make a note about incorporate this, or you know what, that's already covered by statute, or, I think we can go through that fairly quickly and say, consolidate a lot of that.
would you guys like a binder of all the existing policies that we have, so you can kind of,
I think I have that one.
Have one?
I think I have that one.
I'd like a new one,
okay.
because I'm just going to make an assumption that 90% of it is the same as what I've been given before, but I think we've probably had some changes over the last year or so that,
The
I
personnel
have not-
policies, really? I didn't think much had changed.
well, I was thinking selectmen's policies.
Oh, no, selectmen's policies is another thing. This is personnel
Sorry,
policies.
I thought you
Okay.
were talking about selectmen, and we changed that.
So, yeah, just to make sure, I think to make sure that we're all on
Yeah,
the same
that's-
page.
that's fine.
I think if we all got what, as of today,
But I think that's the easier one to
Whatever it
work
is.
with. We do have to work on
has there been a
General
change
as well.
at all?
the
to
general as
personnel?
well, okay?
The personnel gets updated periodically, like the IRS mileage rate, things like that, but no, they've basically been the same policies. But they're all the same policies since they were written, so nothing's really major changed within them.
But I think
Just to make sure we have, can you,
It's more of a handbook than anything
yeah, can you,
else.
just so that we'll have it,
Yeah. I'll
so
make
then
more
I got
copies.
boxes of stuff that, I
Yeah,
think I know where it is in my
maybe
office.
a
but I'm
new
not
binder
100%
for all
sure.
three of us to make
Yeah.
sure we're
I
all
also
looking
have
at
it
the
as a
same
Word
stuff.
document and a PDF, so
That's
if you
fine.
wanted
You
to
just email it, that's fine.
email it and play with
I
it.
do so much better when it's on paper because I like to make notes and stuff,
All right,
if you don't mind.
not at all.
And my printer is
Yeah,
just
fine.
not all that
It might be a
great.
little personal binder, put all the existing contracts, the personnel policies. I found that really useful when I was.
Yeah. Okay. I'm feeling good about the list. How you guys feeling?
Good?
Wayne,
Wayne?
you all set for this point?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, and Jim, this is just to help you, is the project list is fine and have it in an Excel spreadsheet, but there's a bunch of free project management software out there.
Yep.
That is very easy to use, allows you to sign work, timing, and I found it invaluable in the last 3 jobs when you're starting projects because people miss stuff, you forget,
Sure.
and deadlines slip. So this is an easy way to create it.
Yeah, if you have one or two in particular that you're fond of, if you want to just email me, text me something, just what they are, and I'll pull them up and start playing around with them.
Yeah, I'll pick up the last one I used. I found that one particularly easy to use compared to my project. I hate that one. So
What, Microsoft Project? I hate it. It's awful.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
But the last one I went, it's so easy.
It's good
can't
for
find the name of it.
it's good for IT people.
I have Project in it. I started to play with it,
Yeah,
and I
it's-
said, I don't have time. I said, I could use Excel quicker
Yeah.
than I could
Yeah.
put anything into Project.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. It's good for the people who are doing IT project management.
If you're a project
Yes.
manager, if that's your
Yeah.
whole job,
Yes.
I suppose it's beneficial because you're in it. That's
Yeah.
on one of your
Now,
2
they-
screens.
I have several friends that are certified product managers. They all hate it too.
It's just not really user-friendly, that's all. So you're going to put together like a summary of this and pull out what is a goal versus an objective, and maybe when we see it that way, we can come out with some other objectives
Absolutely,
as well, okay? And by the way, I'm used to asking the employee for their goals and objectives, so this is for you too. I mean, knowing how the board is thinking and the things that are important, what goals and objectives would you add to the list for yourself,
Absolutely.
okay? Okay, I'm done. Anybody else?
The only other comment I had, just to that last point, Sue, is how do we trickle this down to the other boards and departments?
Well, Jim is the one
I'm the
that's charged
trickler.
with trickling.
I'm the trickler for anybody that's underneath the select board's jurisdiction, but your question is a good one regarding implications for other boards and commissions that are not under the org chart, under the selectmen.
That needs to really be invitation.
A volunteer fair, for instance. I mean, you would presume there'd be an interest across the board in participation. So I guess just openly communicating it, Wayne, once the document's adopted, getting it into everybody's hands, department head meeting where we have representation across a variety of the boards and commissions, getting feedback on which ones touch their organization, they're part of the organization. Ultimately it comes down to people's interest and willingness to work together on it.
I just don't want us to work in a vacuum, or each board to work in a vacuum when, or have 2 conflicting goals.
Right.
I think communicating it is going to be helpful, because then they're going to know this is the direction that we're going in. And if it makes sense for some of them to go in that same direction, if they have the same goals in common,
Right.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we sign the bills payable in session.
That's not the one she was looking for.
I know.
That's fine. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll take another motion.
Okay. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning at
Aye.
Aye.
6:55.
Oh, yeah.
Aye.
Our shortest meeting. Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Travel safely.
Yep. No, thank you very much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.